Selling a home during a divorce in Colorado is not a normal real estate decision. On paper, it may look like any other sale. You talk about price, preparation, photos, all the showings, the offers, the inspections, the repairs, and a closing date. But underneath all of that, there's usually a lot more happening. The home may be tied to financial pressure between the two, emotional history, personal safety, definitely some uncertainty about that next chapter, or even a disagreement of what should happen next. That's why the divorce decision and selling the house needs to be handled differently. Before you decide to list the home, maybe even buy out the other person, refinance, wait, or even look at another option, you need a clear real estate plan. Not because the house is the only issue in the divorce, but because it's often one of the largest financial pieces in the process. I want to be very clear from the beginning. This video is not legal advice. If you're going through a divorce or a legal separation in Colorado, you need to work with the right legal, tax, and financial professionals for your decision. My role as a realtor is to help you understand the real estate side, so you're not guessing through one of the most important financial decisions you're going to have to make. Because during the divorce, the house can become more than just a property. It represents stability, conflict, equity, the debt, the control, relief, even fear. Or it can represent a path forward. When that much emotion is connected to a transaction, small decisions can start to feel much bigger than they would in a normal transaction and sale. This is where a clear process matters. The first question you need to ask is whether the home actually needs to be sold. Many assume that selling is the automatic next step. Sometimes that's the case. If neither person can afford the home alone, if the equity needs to be divided, or if the property has become too expensive to maintain, selling may be the cleanest path. But it's not the only possibility. One person might want to keep the home and buy out the other's interest. Then the loan may need to be refinanced. There could be even a temporary agreement about who actually stays and is living in the property while that divorce is pending. So depending on the situation, waiting could also be a part of that conversation. If timing, market conditions, or personal circumstances make an immediate sale difficult, the mistake's going to be jumping into the listing before real options are understood. A sale can definitely solve a problem, but it can also create new ones. If the timing, authority, the numbers, or even the next housing plan are not clear, from the real estate side, I would want to know whether both parties are aligned on selling. Who has the authority to sign the listing documents, how the pricing decisions get made, who is going to review the offers, how communication is going to happen, and what timeline everyone's working towards. Those details may sound procedural, but trust me, they're going to matter. Confusion slows that process down. Delays can cost you money. A buyer who may be interested in the home is not going to wait indefinitely, while sellers figure out basic decisions behind the scenes. The second question is whether either person can realistically keep the home. This is oftentimes where the emotional and financial parts collide. Someone may want to stay because the home feels familiar. In the middle of a major life change, keeping the house can feel like one piece of stability. And I get that, it's understandable, but the numbers still have to work. Mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, the utilities, the repairs, the maintenance, HOA fees, and even the broader cost of living there all need to be reviewed through the lens of what life looks like after the divorce. A home that works under one financial structure may not work after another comes into play. A buyout could also be more complicated than it sounds. If one person is planning to keep the property, they may need to qualify for that mortgage alone. There's the refinance, addressing how the equity is going to be divided, even understanding whether the other person can be removed from the loan, or even the title, the way the agreement is going to require. That process is going to involve attorneys, lenders, and appraisers, and very careful timing. Assuming the home can be kept before testing the numbers can create unnecessary risk. A better move is going to be to gather the information early, speak with the lender, understand that likely value range, estimate the equity, review your monthly carrying costs, and then looking at what the next housing situation for each person could realistically be. So it's not just about whether someone wants to keep the house. The bigger question is whether keeping it supports a stabilized next chapter. The third question is, what's the home actually worth in today's market? During a divorce, value can become a point of tension. One person may remember what a neighbor sold for during the stronger markets, and another might be focusing on the amount of money needed after closing. Another may be that certain upgrades may think, someone may believe that certain updates may increase the value more than the market is willing to recognize or even pay. Because the market does not price a home based on what the divorce needs. Buyers are going to respond to comparable sales, the condition, the location, the inventory, the interest rates, presentation, and even the timing. That can be very hard to hear when the numbers are emotional. But here's what it will do. It gives the decision a more stable foundation. A strong pricing strategy matters even more in a divorce because your situation is already carrying enough pressure. Overpricing can lead to longer days on market, price reductions, even more difficult conversations, and a growing feeling that the sale is stuck. Pricing too aggressively in the other direction can create concern that the property was rushed or even undervalued. The goal here is to protect the outcome while respecting the market. That may mean getting a professional market analysis. In some cases, even an appraisal might be appropriate, depending on what your attorney is recommending and what the situation is going to require. From a real estate perspective, the value conversation should be grounded in actual evidence. Once those numbers become clear, the next steps then become a little bit easier to evaluate. The fourth question to ask is, how are decisions being made once it's on the market? A normal sale already requires a lot of choices. Sellers have to think through preparation, photos, the showing access, offer terms, inspection responses, repair requests, the appraisal issues, the closing dates, and even sometimes still post-occupancy for closing. During divorce, these normal transaction steps can become very difficult if no one has agreed on a process. That doesn't mean both people need to communicate directly all the time. In some situations, direct communication may not even be appropriate, allowed, or even productive. What matters though is that the sale has a defined structure. So before showings begin, it helps to know who receives updates, whether the attorneys are even included on certain decisions, how quickly we can review offers, who gets to approve the repairs, and what happens if the parties disagree. This is especially important once an offer comes in. Buyers usually expect timely responses. So if the sellers are not prepared to make a decision, the offer may weaken, it might expire, and they may even move towards a different property. A clear communication plan does not remove the difficulty of the situation, but it can keep the real estate process from becoming another source of avoidable conflict. The fifth question is, how much privacy do you need during the sale? Selling a home is public in some ways. The photos go online, showings happen, neighbors are going to notice, you're going to have activity, buyers begin to ask questions, documents are going back and forth between agents, lenders, title companies, attorneys, and all the other professionals that are involved in the transaction. During a divorce, privacy may need more attention than it would during a typical transaction. So, the market doesn't need your personal story. Buyers want to understand the property. The distinction does matter. The listing should focus on the home, the location, the condition, the features, pricing, and value. It should not signal distress or turn a private situation into a marketing angle. There are also practical privacy issues to think through before notice and showings. Personal documents should be secured and put away. Calendars, names, family photos, medication, financial paperwork, and anything that's sensitive should be removed or protected. If one person is still living in the home, showing access needs to be planned carefully. Safety, comfort, and boundaries should be addressed before strangers begin just walking through the property. These details may not be glamorous, but they definitely can help protect dignity during a vulnerable transaction. The sixth question is, what preparation makes sense before listing the property? Some sellers, they want to move quickly because they're exhausted. They want the house sold, the closing finished, and starting their next chapter. And that reaction, it's completely understandable. Still, rushing a listing can cost real money. Before we go live, the home needs to be evaluated before repairs. The cleaning, the staging, the landscaping, the disclosures, the access, even the safety, photography, and even overall presentation. The plan doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be practical. Divorce can make this part harder because the responsibility may not feel or look evenly shared. One person may still live in the home and feel overwhelmed by the work. The other, they may have already moved out and feel disconnected of what needs to happen. Somebody might resist spending money on repairs, while the other believes preparation is necessary to protect value. This is going to be where prioritization matters. You do not always need to do a major update, and it doesn't need to be made to look brand new. In many cases, it's to focus on the items that are going to be affecting the buyer confidence, presentation, and inspection risk. Clean, accessible, well presented, and properly priced can be more effective than trying to fix every imperfection. A walkthrough prior to listing can separate what truly matters before listing a home. That alone prevents much wasted time, unnecessary arguments, and even expenses that may not approve the final outcome. The seventh question is how negotiations will be handled. A divorce can make negotiation feel personal, even when the buyer is simply just responding to the property. An inspection request, it might feel like a little bit of criticism. A lower offer might feel insulting. An appraisal issue might create frustration. A change in closing terms may seem like just one more complication in already a tough situation. However, the buyer is not part of the divorce. The buyer is evaluating the home, the price, the terms, and the contract itself. That separation is important. Once the property is on the market, every response should be strategic rather than reactive. Sometimes the right move is to hold firm, but in another situation, the compromise may protect the larger goal. So the best answer is going to depend on the offer, the market, the inspection findings, the cost of repairs, the timeline, and the risk of losing momentum. So before listing, I would want everyone to understand what matters most. A seller focused on the highest possible price may make different choices than someone who is prioritizing speed, certainty, or a clean closing. So if both parties have different priorities, that should be discussed before the first serious offer arrives. Otherwise, every negotiation point can and will become another conflict. That eighth question is, what happens after closing? This is often delayed until the sale is already moving, but it should be part of the strategy from the beginning. If the home sells, where does each person go next? Is somebody going to rent? Does one person plan to buy again? Are there credit, debt, timing issues that are going to affect that next move? Will the sale proceeds, the equity, be available right away? Or are there going to be legal and financial steps that have to happen after closing? A real estate plan during a divorce should not stop at the sale. It should account for that next housing decision. That's especially important in Colorado, where the housing costs can be very significant. Someone who is selling a shared home and entering the market alone may find that that next budget looks very, very different. Equity can help that, but equity does not solve every housing problem. So that said, a lender conversation should be happening very early. Either person is considering buying again. Rental options may need to be explored if purchasing immediately does not make sense. Timelines should be built in a way so you're not forcing decisions right after closing, because the sale may close one chapter, but that next housing step is going to be and need to be livable. Now, let's talk about the emotional side without pretending that it can be protected from the transaction. A home carries years of history. Even when you're selling and it's the right financial decision, it's going to still feel painful. So if keeping the home is not realistic, that can feel like another loss inside of an already difficult process. That's why the real estate plan has to reduce unnecessary uncertainty. You may not be able to make the situation easy, but you can definitely make the next step more organized. The house, it can be evaluated. The value can be clarified. The listing plan can be structured. Communication, it can be routed properly. Showings can be handled with boundaries. Negotiations can be tied back to the larger goal instead of the emotion of the moment. This is where the process becomes useful. It gives everyone a way to move through the sale without the decision becoming another crisis. If you're in this situation, don't make the real estate decision in isolation. Talk with your attorney, bring in a financial advisor or tax professional. Speak with a lender before assuming that one person can just keep the home. And involve a realtor early enough to understand the market, but not so late that the listing becomes a rush. Moving too fast, it's going to create some regret. But waiting without a plan can also do the same. The better path is going to be informed and organized, with enough structure in it to keep the decision from being driven by pressure. Selling a home during a divorce in Colorado is not just about putting a sign in the yard. It's about understanding what can legally happen, what the property's worth, what the numbers support, how the decisions will be made, and where each person is going to go next. Before you list, take the time and answer the real estate questions first. Does the home need to be sold? Can one person afford to keep it? What's the value in today's market? Who's going to have the authority to make the decisions? How will your privacy be protected? And what preparation actually matters? Which negotiation priorities are most important? What's the housing plan after closing? Once those answers are clear, the real estate side becomes easier for you to manage. Not easy, but clear. And in a situation where so much may already feel uncertain, Clarity is one of the most valuable things you can have. In future videos, I'll continue to break down Colorado real estate decisions that don't always appear simple on the surface. From buying or selling and major life transitions, timing, and how you think through housing choices with more confidence. Because when life is already complicated, your real estate decision should not add more confusion. It should help create the next workable step.